Hello everyone, how do? It is Kenny the Basic Brit back again with another session recap. This is session 5 of the Western Lands campaign setting, apologies. As I alluded to in the last video, a lot happens in this one. There's some broken hearts and some unexpected twists, but without further ado, let's just get straight into it. Now feeling more confident with their abilities to retrieve their plunder from any expedition into the dark places of the wilds, a mule for carriage and a porter to watch the animal while they delve, Hob wouldn't agree to torchbear within the crypts. His life would hang by a thread. He was smart enough to figure that out. The group returned to the solitary ruined watchtower and descend the now semi-familiar staircase below. The octagonal room with the passages north, east and south, lit once again by Malik's lantern and Bluebell holding aloft a torch, is starting to become familiar to them. While the party is deliberating which way to go, proven route or map the rest of their way around, a couple of them are interested in where the stages from last session came from. They discern south, in the room across from the wolf den, as there was a foul stench coming from there, they recall. Using the 10-foot pole to test the ground and Mirren's detect traps ability, they uncover another pit trap where the wolves suspiciously bounded over. No need for saves this time, Trotec. Their deduction is correct, and in this small and dirty, unfurnished area, there are 5 nests affixed to the southern wall, seemingly held aloft with mucus, blood and animal hair. Still wanting to be cautious, Bluebell, Trotec and Orlan use their poles and staffs to prod around and confirm that the nests are no longer inhabited. Half of the party starts to loot, while the others keep watch and listen out for any presence of the wolves or other denizens. All seems quiet. The wolves must be out on a hunt. The sturges, like most monsters, covet shiny things, and within their disgusting little hideaways, members of the adventuring team retrieve a mix of valuable gemstones, an ornamental and expensive looking letter opener, and a simple but expertly crafted statuette of an elven lady. Relics of an unfortunate soul who fell foul of the beast perhaps. With their wealth building up and a fire to recover more in their bellies, everyone sets off across the corridor to the wolf den and finds it abandoned but for the animal's leftovers and detritus. Among the mess, Trotec finds a large sack full of coin that splits and sends gold in all directions. The party scrambles to gather it all up. Quite a sizable hoard it seems. They make a lot of noise, but the corridors remain quiet for now. With their bags starting to swell already, they press on south once more and discover a corridor leading eastwards. The walls lined with jail cell style iron barred doors. No sign of tracks anywhere, and Splug starts to quiver as he mutters to his new friends.
Dangerous. Must be careful. Things in here. Must be safe.
His ramblings cause an unease, but everyone feels confident they can handle whatever is in here. There are 6 cells in total, 3 to the north mirrored with 3 to the south. The 2 nearest pique the group's interest. Mirren peers into the nearest southern cell and sees a large coin purse in a heavily decomposed state. At a glance he counts what must be over 80 gold pieces. Dollar signs appear in his eyes. One problem, it seems to be covered in a powdery and fungus-like substance with small puffball mushroom heads, but he thinks he has a plan to remove it from a distance. He retrieves a scimitar he had looted from a dead orc from his pack and reaches out to try and dislodge the rotten leather purse. A good idea in theory, but he is still well within range of the nefarious natural trap. As soon as the mould is disturbed, a large cloud of choking spores is released as each puffball mushroom aggressively sends their payload airborne. The rest of the party react, gasping and taking a step back. Bluebell and Liana call out to Mirren. The elf turns to the rest of the party and drops his scimitar, clattering to the hard stone floor. He starts to grasp at his mouth and throat, struggling to draw any breath. Orlan and Trotek uncork their water skins and try to clear the blockage that has formed in Mirren's upper gullet. By this stage the elf has dropped to the floor and is writhing on the ground in agony. His eyes swollen and bloodshot, and his fair elven skin has turned blue with a lack of oxygen. Nothing works, and the party look on in horror as their comrade slowly stops moving. And then, for a moment, there's silence. Jarek breaks the silence with uncaring pragmatism and says that the magical blade is his and retrieves it from Mirren's now lifeless body. The other members of the group, while shook up by the encounter, agree in the end that whatever Mirren owned would be best utilised by the rest of them, and at the end of the day, we all knew the risks of coming down here. Lyanna hums a lament for her fallen friend, and Orlan and Trotek wrap up his body in his sleeping system. They carry him out to the donkey while the others stand guard and tell Hob to keep vigil until their return. The mourning and funeral will have to wait. Malik, who is the party map maker, annotates on his parchment paper, "The elf died here," and then in bold, "Do not go in here." After a regroup and redistribution of the possessions, they decide to press on to more unexplored regions of the dungeon. A bold move. They head south and see a stairway descending deeper, and a corridor west that they correctly deduce would lead back to the room where they killed the orc party. There was a room here that they did not have time to check on the last foray, and think it would be prudent to clear it this time. While still reeling from the death of a party member, they decide to seize the initiative and headstrong burst into the room, surprising another 4 goblins. One of them has a bulbous boil-covered belly that juts out through gaping holes in his ill-fitting leather armour. Splug cries out at him, "Fat belly!" Once again the fight is on, and after an initial volley of missiles the 2 opposing forces are brought together in hand-to-hand combat. The quietness of the corridors is broken with the clashing of steel. Above the din of combat, Lyanna's lute strikes up once more in an effort to bolster her friend's defensive abilities, quickly becoming a favourite tune to some of the party as they narrowly escape goblin dagger thrusts because of the bard's war song. Orlan wades into battle, swinging his gnarled tree branch in great arcs and belts a greenskin in the crotch, then finishes him off with a crushing blow to the head. Trotek swings his battle axe furiously, finding immense pleasure every time a hit lands, and soon the only goblin left standing is Fat Belly, who drops his weapons and pleads for parley. I seem to have a merciful group, and they allow him to live for an exchange of information. He spills the beans on why they're here, and the party has confirmation that there are hobgoblins deeper in the 2nd level. Fat Belly thinks they've found something down there. They are not willing to share it. He hands them a letter written in Goblin with the previously discussed directions, and they see it is signed by Irontooth, the goblin's apparent local ruler who lives in the woods west of Morgan's Fort, at the foothills of the mountain. Also, he reveals the location of a secret door within this room, containing a chest filled with silver pieces and some valuable gemstones. The key that the party looted in a previous session unlocks this chest. Once the looting is finished, the group decide it's best to head back to town with all of their treasure and the rest of the haul. They don't want Mirren to start smelling either. Do elves decay like human folk? A long discussion is had about what they should do with Fat Belly. Hand him over to the local guard or let him go free. Now, I try to explain that Morgan's Fort doesn't have much of a prison system. Orlan feels bad about just letting him go or killing him outright. In the end, they decide to let him go as promised, as the townfolk would surely just execute him. On the way out of the dungeon though, they are accosted once again by those pesky groups of kobolds. These are starting to become a bit of a pain now. They're pelted with spears and sling stones in the ambush. Malik decides he's had enough and puts his new sleep spell to test. All but one falls to the magic. Protect deals with the last one awake and in his frustration drops the chest that they've looted from the secret door onto a sleeping kobold's head. Wow, that dwarf can have a serious mean streak sometimes. Ambush dealt with, they make haste and reunite with Hob and the unnamed donkey. Once again, they pack up their belongings and decide to head back to town for a funeral of their travelling companion. So guys, that was session 5. We are 1 elf down. Unfortunately, Mirren did not survive his encounter with a yellow mould, and he wasn't far enough away in trying to get the loot that it was guarding. It was the first character death I've had to deal out this campaign. There's been a couple of tenuous moments for quite a few encounters, but the party have handled everything really well so far, and this was a little bit of a lesson for some of the newer players who've come over from 5e, that even the most mundane looking of things can be extremely deadly in this particular TTRPG. And this is why I love old school gaming. It sets that tone of your adventurer is a tomb raider, an explorer of the wilderness. They are not a superhero. If a yellow mold is going to choke someone out and kill them, it's going to be one of the people who explore these areas. It's not going to be an NPC. It's the player characters who are the main. They're the main driving force of the game, of the story, and death is part of that game and story. I didn't know how the player would react at first. Now, the player of Mirren is one of my good friends from back home, back up in Greater Manchester. And do you know what? He loved it. He's already got a new character. He's keeping a thief. We'll get introduced to him next session. He didn't roll up an elf this time, but I'll introduce his character in the next session recap. But he took it so well. Like, he was a real champ about it, and it really helped dial into the rest of the group how deadly this dungeon can be. And at the end of the day, we all had a really good time. Character death or not, it was a really fun session. But that being said, that's the end of the video. If you're liking what I'm doing, as usual, do the usual stuff down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will be back again next week with another session recap. Until then, bye bye.